Welcome back to the program, ladies and gentlemen. With me right now, it's a very exciting opportunity for myself, as I am a fan of this lady's work, for not just Big Bang, for a couple other things that she has done, especially here in New York City. I believe I saw a comedy thing that you did here in the city years ago.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
But we'll get into that a little later. Everybody,
Thank
Melissa
you.
Rausch is here. Hello,
Hi.
how are you?
How are you? I'm so glad to be here.
You're here not for Big Bang, not for your comedy, but for a brand new movie that you put out and that you wrote called The Bronze. Forgive me for my voice being very shot. I got food poisoning at the beginning of the week, so my voice is completely fried.
Oh, I'm sorry. That sucks.
It's all right. I did it to myself, so I deserve it. Let's talk about your movie here, and there's so many other things I want to get to about your career. The Bronze, it's out in theaters today. You should definitely go see it. Now, I have to be honest, when I first saw the trailer, at first I didn't realize it was you.
Really?
Right, because I caught it just as a glimpse online. I didn't recognize you at first. So I watched the thing, and I'm like, oh, this is like a parody movie kind of thing. And then I watched it again, and I was like, wait, this isn't a parody movie. This is really thought out. The raunchiness, I'll say, of it was really thought out. It wasn't just throwing things out there to be shocking.
Thank you.
It's very well written, very well planned, how you did a lot of the dialogue and the gestures and the scene and the visual expressions in the movie.
Thank you.
Is your character based the look on Kerri Strug?
It's not. It was sort of this fictionalized character that we came up with. I've always loved the world of gymnastics and have been a fan for years. The bangs are a little reminiscent of figure skater Tanya Harding, but it was more. It wasn't necessarily a direct inspiration. It's just looking back, there is a bit of a similarity there.
Because those bangs never moved.
They do not
They
move.
were locked in place until you wanted to move. Well, actually, there was a scene where you were going to show that I am ready to go and I am going to do this, and you move your bangs and they went right back into place. I'm like, those bangs are not moving for anything.
They were shellacked. I had a hair person on that set who did the ponytail, but I was in charge of the bangs because I'm from Jersey and bangs are very important to me. I rock those bangs in my real life.
I'm from Long Island. It's no different.
Same thing.
Living in Jersey now, but
really?
It's pretty. It's that whole Long Island, Jersey,
It's
hate
the
each
same
other
thing.
thing. They're the same people.
They're the same people.
You just don't want to choose to admit it.
It's true.
The people who aren't the same are the ones who are living and grew up in Manhattan. On the island, they're the only different ones. Everyone else is the same.
That is very true. We're going to bridge the gap right here.
It's never going to happen. It's just one of those things where they'll
You're
never
right.
get along.
That's true.
But yeah, the bangs were rocking. The story of Hope getting injured and then doing the miraculous final competition to win a medal and became the big hero inspiration story. Now, that wasn't based on one particular person. In fact, some of the gymnasts that you had in the movie had that story. Not Dominique Dawes.
Mucciano and Dominique
Mucciano
Dawes.
had that going up into the Atlanta Games. Had that same kind of thing where she messed up her foot really bad and still plowed through and still made it into the Atlanta Games. Got hurt there where she didn't get an individual medal, but she got the group medal with it.
That gymnast is absolutely incredible, and she is the exact opposite of what Hope is after the medal. You know,
Right.
she's so well adjusted and normal, and she couldn't be more lovely as a human being. And so Hope is really an exploration of what if someone didn't have the tools to actually move on past this moment.
I like how, too, with the gymnast that you had in there, you let them be real, even though Hope was fake. And her story integrated with their real life story,
Thank you.
where you're on TV and Dominique starts giving you a little flack. And you go, well, what about that?
The Brazilian javelin
Thrower, right? Yeah.
threw
And then all of a sudden, it cuts right off. And I was like, wow, that's pretty.
She was
on the
great.
nose.
Dominique was such a great sport on set, and she was like, just whatever you want to say to me, go for it, and she was a great sport about it. She was really fantastic. I'm sure we have some outtakes somewhere of me just lashing into her more.
It's kind of cool that you had them in there as doing commentary, which I'm like, that seems realistic why they would be there. Like in ice skating, all these famous ice skaters that you know or wouldn't know are all the ones doing commentary for NBC, for the qualifiers for the Olympic Games, all that stuff. So to work them in there, and even having Craig Kilborn as the main Bob Costas-like anchor in there, because you could tell. I don't know if it was intentional or not, but he was never looking directly at the camera and always seemed very disinterested at anybody else speaking but himself. Whenever they were doing the commentary, it's like, yeah, on the floor, and he'd be looking off to the side. Everyone else is looking at the camera or watching everything's going on. He could care less.
This is so great.
It's all those little things that I think I appreciated more in this movie.
Thank you.
Rather than, the stuff that was right in your face. Of course, her language, her demeanor, and things like that. Your interest in gymnastics, did you do gymnastics growing up?
I did. I took a couple lessons as a kid, but I had no talent at it whatsoever. So I took lessons for the movie to immerse myself in that world and to learn as much as I possibly could, but I didn't retain anything. I took lessons with this Russian coach in Los Angeles who was very annoyed with me that I told her it was for a movie, but she didn't really grasp that fact. And when she was trying to teach me how to do a somersault and I couldn't do it, she's like, just give up. It's not going to happen. Just don't. Go away.
So it wasn't cliche to have the Russian aggravated gym coach
Exactly.
in there. Like, all right, she's being written in some form.
Right.
Because I didn't know if she was also based, because all the gymnasts were from the 96 team that you were using and discussing. I didn't know if the coach was based on not Bela Lugosi,
Karolyi
from the 96 team.
It wasn't really. We knew that this was a character that was very instrumental in her life, as Bela Karolyi it was in so many athletes' lives, but it wasn't a direct inspiration. It was
a conglomerate?
Yeah, it's kind of a mishmash of what we've, imagined all these coaches to be.
This is great that you're releasing it this year with the Olympics coming up this summer. It's a nice tie-in.
Yeah, it worked out great.
Have you ever gone to any of the Olympic Games?
I haven't. I really want to go this year, though.
It's in Brazil.
Yeah.
You're going to go make the trip down there?
Well, that's true. That's true. I don't think I should do that.
They based Grand Theft Auto video game on Rio, so you may want to rethink that when you go down there.
That's true.
I worked at the 96 Olympics for NBC at that
did?
time. Yeah, and I got to see... I didn't get to see a lot of the stuff, but for some reason, I just was there at the right time, and I got to see a lot of the gold medal games.
Really?
So I saw the men's wrestling, swimming, but the girls' gymnastics for the big what was it called? The Magnificent Seven at that time? Yeah.
That must have been so cool to be there for that.
It was. I mean, you got all these people around the world. Like, you never realize some of these sports that you see early morning on ESPN3, like qualifying gymnastics in Albany and something going on. And like, who's watching this? But then when it gets to that level, how these small sports are just worldwide phenomenon to the rest of the world.
It's absolutely unbelievable. And when you look at what these athletes do, it's remarkable. And then when you think how young they are, it's absolutely mind-blowing.
What was your favorite part to act out in this movie? Because it's such a direct opposite to the character everybody knows you from Big Bang Theory. With the exception of the bossiness is still in there.
Yeah.
It's weaved in there. But to be completely crass and no consideration for anybody else's feelings or how they feel about you, be it positive or negative. Like, what was one of your favorite things to do that you got a chance to do in this movie?
It's kind of like Sophie's choice of scenes for me, because it was it was so fun to do all of it. We were shooting it. There was this feeling of, we had it. When you write something and then get to see it actually come to fruition, you're in this state of, actually trying to execute against your material, but in between takes, just being really happy that you're actually getting the chance to do it. The scenes with Gary were really special because those were our first scenes that we shot when we started the shoot, and we only had 22 days to shoot this entire movie, so everything was at a real breakneck pace. So we shot all the scenes with Gary first in the house, and that sort of set the tone for the rest of the movie, which I'm really glad it did, because it was important to us that the world in which these characters live in is very grounded, and then the comedy and the bigger moments are sort of cranked up from the story that's going on. So those moments were very intense and great, and then we brought Thomas in, and Sebastian came in about I think the second week, and it was just working with everyone and then Haley Liu, who plays Maggie, is such a find, and she actually was a competitive dancer. So she had this athletic ability.
But she wasn't a gymnast?
She had, she did gymnastics up until the competitive level, but she really transitioned more into competitive dance. So she actually trained for a few months to learn, to learn how to move more like a gymnast instead of a dancer.
Because I was just going to ask you about the girl who plays Maggie there, because she does very well.
Yeah.
But that sort of answers my question as far as her gymnastics ability, because I was going to ask if she was really that well trained and had been at, like, a lot of these kids are at it since like 5-6 years old.
Yeah.
Did she find it hard to? There's a scene where she gets a bit messed up.
Yeah.
And is screwing up all her routines. She thinks she's flying. She doesn't know how to grab the bars right. When you're that dedicated and that professional, and it becomes second nature to you, I was always wondering, like, how hard is it to purposely mess it up
Right.
for the sake of a movie if you're that level of a professional?
Yeah, I think when we worked on that scene, she actually had to hang from the bars, and because she hadn't done bar work really since she was a kid, she didn't have the calluses on her hands like these gymnasts do to do it. So and apparently what happens is when you're on the bars is that your skin breaks and then a callus forms, and it's excruciatingly painful. So when we were shooting that scene and we had a stunt double for her to do some of the more technical moves, but she had to hang from those bars, and she cracked open her hand, and the other gymnasts, the elite gymnast we had on set, she walked by them, she's like, I cracked my hand. They're like, good for you, rite of passage.
Yeah, you never want to meet a gymnast who has very silky smooth hands.
No.
It's got to feel like they're wearing a baseball glove.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, so she was actually really proud of it and wore it like a badge of honor.
The outfit that you're wearing, the warm-up tracksuit, did you get to keep that?
I did.
You did?
I did. I have it at my house, hanging up in the closet. I love it. Because we had such a small budget, I think there's only 2 of them, and I have one of them. There's one clean one that Hope wears when she's actually getting the medal, and then the one that I wear around town that Hope has supposedly worn for the past 10 years. So I have that. It's the most comfortable costume I've ever worn in my entire life.
Well, let me suggest this to you for this year. You're no stranger to Comic-Con. Recent years, the big trend has been some celebrity walks the floor in a costume where nobody recognizes that it's that person. Matt Smith, who was Doctor Who at one point, walked in the doctor costume but had a Bart Simpson mask on, walked the whole floor, and they were secretly taping it. Bryan Cranston dressed up as his character from Breaking Bad with the hat and everything, and everyone just thought it was great cosplay and didn't know that he was out there. You can dress up as Hope, because the Olympics are going to be happening around the same time as Comic-Con. You could dress up as Hope, walk out on the floor, full costume, hair, and I guarantee you nobody recognizes you, and you make a little video of it. When you're done that day and you get off the floor, you post it online, and I bet you it goes nuts.
I'm going to do it.
You should.
That's a great idea.
And you should also now look, because of this movie, who's going to be dressed up as Hope at Comic-Con.
Oh, that would be really cool if that happened.
And then you see your bootleg merchandise that you're not getting a dime for. All the
true.
fake T-shirts and figures and photos that are allegedly signed by you. And no, they're official, but it's $100.
Right. Well, if that happened, I would gladly welcome it, because I guess that would mean that people have seen it.
One other scene in the movie, well, actually a couple scenes in the movie, the hotel in Toronto scene. I love the fact, without giving anything away, I love the fact that you blatantly didn't hide anything as far as there being a double. Like most movies there are some scenes where it's dark and the hair's pulled over so you can't tell that it's you. But then it got to a point where everything going on is so ridiculous and well choreographed that you just go, who cares? Get the close-up shots. And then when it cuts to you, it's now the tongue-in-cheek joke that, oh, there's your face for the close-up.
Right.
And then that's obviously not you doing those other things in there, but he's in there.
Yeah.
It was just a great blend, because a lot of times they just really try to downplay it. And I think as you were started, this is what happens, and you went into this whole thing, and I thought that was really well done.
Thank you.
The bar scene and the car scene, as far as her sexuality, just floored me. You should go see The Bronze. It's out today in theaters everywhere. This might be a cliche question, but I'm just going to ask. Are people still surprised when they get a chance to meet you and talk to you and that your voice isn't like Bernadette's? I'm sure you get that a lot.
They are. I think it's definitely a surprise. There's also sometimes where someone thinks that they might recognize me, but they hear my voice and say, "Oh, no, that's not her."
No, not at all. Because everyone associates people nowadays with the character that they portray. So if they get a chance to see them or meet them in real life, they're let down for the wrong reason. You could be so sweet, and you give them a hug, you take a photo, sign an autograph, done everything right, and they're like, she doesn't sound like the character, and that somehow
true.
is ruining their experience.
That's true. Sometimes I feel bad and feel like I should put on the voice for them.
No, not at all.
No.
Be yourself. With The Big Bang Theory, how geeky are you? Are you into a lot of the subjects that they talk about?
I can honestly say that I'm not. I have an appreciation for it, especially having been on the show for the past 6 years. I now get it and I appreciate that world, but I don't personally, read comic books in my own life a ton. But I do love, and I also am, as far as science goes, I am, like, my science teachers, I'm sure, are looking at me on this show calling bullshit for sure, because I was terrible in science. But I feel like I'm a geek in my own right in just other ways. I was a big, like, theater nerd in high school and definitely could relate to the underdog, outsider aspect of Big Bang.
Got a chance to talk to Jim Parsons a while ago. And I was really surprised to find out when we were talking about Big Bang that he's like, I don't know half the stuff that they're talking about. And he's like, I feel like I'm in school and they got to give me a tutor every week and explain, this is why this is funny, or this is why this is important right now. And he's like, I don't even own any of those t-shirts. And I was like, wow, that is so amazing to be that great at his character and not have any traits to what the character is. So I always question, like, what does he put of himself into the character there? And then what do you put into Bernadette that's, obviously she's not you, what do you put into Bernadette that makes it a part of you?
I think it's the fact that what all these characters operate from is the fact that they love what they do. They love the people around them, and their friends have become like their family. And with Bernadette and Howard, that love of her husband and the feeling of partnership is something that I have in my own life, and also Bernadette reminds me a lot of my mom. From the first time that I saw her character on the page in my audition, I thought this is very similar to my mother's demeanor. So I draw from that.
Do you think that you finally have made it, not just from your comedic skills, your writing skills, probably the #1 comedy in the world right now that you're on, and this great movie, The Bronze, that's coming out that you wrote with your husband and starred in? Do you feel the high point of your life has been the fact that you now have your own little action figure, like from that Funko Pop Bernadette?
That was so exciting. That was definitely a thrilling moment to see that. It's actually actual size based on my height. They're pretty much the same size.
Everybody I get a chance to talk to that has those figures or some kind of figure,
Yeah.
I always think, I'm like, you work really hard and you suffer for your art and you practice and develop to get to this point where you're successful, and you could be in a #1 blockbuster movie and television show, whatever. But for some reason, seeing your face on a t-shirt or in an action figure made to look like you just seemed to me like, I don't think outside of millions of dollars, what else would make you happy in life?
Oh, man.
Because I would buy that. Like, if I had an action figure this year, I'd buy a bunch of it, and that's what everyone in my family is getting for Christmas. That's it.
I love that. I did give it to my parents. I did.
Does it sit unopened on a shelf somewhere?
Yes.
And like, oh, that's nice. That's
Yes,
Melissa.
totally unopened.
But that's what you expect from a parent.
Exactly.
If they were flaunting it everywhere, then you've got the problem like you have with Stan in the movie.
Totally.
Right.
Totally. They keep me in my place. There's no standing me with my parents.
Oh, by the way, I forgot you were in True Blood.
Oh, yeah.
I was skimming through something a while ago, and for Deborah Ann Wall.
Oh, I love her.
From who's currently on Daredevil on Netflix right now.
She's so
She
good.
was in True Blood, but I forgot that you were in there. You were the girl that was constantly after Hoyt.
Yes.
Right.
Bacon and biscuits.
And that was before or right as you got Big
So
Bang?
that was after my first couple of guest stars on Big Bang. I guest starred on True Blood for a while. I hadn't been made a series regular on Big Bang yet, but I went and did a few episodes of True Blood, and it was so cool.
It's a great franchise to jump off of. Yeah.
It was great. I had the best time, and that cast was so great. Deborah was so awesome, and that was a really cool experience.
Do you get, obviously for Bernadette and, hopefully for Hope, but do you get people that come up to you and still remember you from True Blood?
Yeah, the True Blood fans are pretty diehard, and I think also a lot of people come to True Blood later. Some people just start
because of
binge watching
HBO
it.
Go.
Yeah,
if they didn't get to see it while it was out, HBO Go now people are like, I've binge watched everything. Let's see what else HBO has, FX has, something like that, and then they discover all this stuff.
Exactly.
I've been thanks to Nick at Night and Netflix, I've been seeing all these major stars now that were in Friends. Like they had little one-offs. They would just happen to be somebody Phoebe bumped into at the laundromat or at
Isn't
the
that
coffee shop.
crazy?
And I'm like, oh my God, he's on Shameless now. You know?
Yeah, I love that. I feel the same way.
It's just such a great world to be in.
Yeah,
All your
it's really
past
cool.
projects now come back, and you're like, nobody cared about that movie or that TV show was on. And then they're like, oh my God, I'm such a big fan. I loved seeing that. And I
It's
watched
true.
it on Netflix or I watched it on iTunes or something like that.
It is really cool, especially like during those times when, you know, you are doing those guest stars. That's like your bread and butter, and it's like what's keeping you afloat at that moment. You know, when I got those guest star parts, I was going in back and forth between the unemployment office to doing a role on True Blood. So those roles meant I mean, all the roles I do mean so much to me, but it definitely holds a special place because you're thinking, oh gosh, well, I'm one job away from going back to waiting tables.
Will you go back to comedy when you're done with television?
I think it's definitely a possibility. I love doing stand-up so much, and when I was, you know, just coming back to New York this week and being here and seeing some of the...
Where was your home club when you were in New York?
I bopped around. There was a place that was not there anymore called Hamburger Harry's. It was called Gladys's Comedy Club. It was in the back of Hamburger Harry's restaurant, and that was the place that I started at. And then I bopped around to a lot of the clubs in Times Square. I was one of those people on the street that would hand out flyers and say, "Come see comedy."
Oh, were you at Ha on 42nd Street or something?
I was at Ha towards the very, I guess it was towards the end of when I was here and the very beginning of when Ha was opening. And there was Joe Franklin's Comedy Club, which a group of us...
It was right down the street.
Yes.
It's closed now, but
yeah, it's not there anymore. But there was a bunch of us who started the comedy club in the back of that room, and so then we did at the TGI Fridays. I did like a bunch of the Times Square clubs, and then did Caroline's a bunch, and
Which
it
is
was
right
great.
around the corner too.
Yeah. It's so just being in this area, I was like, oh, I do miss it. I would like to go back to it eventually.
So if you go back to comedy, would you do more sketch comedy stuff? Would you maybe think of doing Groundlings, or did you do stuff with UCB?
I did, yeah.
Okay.
I had a show there with a group of hilarious girls called The Real Housewives, and we read the actual transcripts from the Housewives shows and acted them out.
What about doing something like Saturday Night Live?
That would be a dream.
You would?
That would be a dream. Yeah. Since I was a kid, I've always loved that show, and I still watch it every Saturday night.
Well, you still have time.
Oh, it'd be amazing. It'd be amazing.
But ride the course with your mega successful Big Bang Theory show.
you.
Wait till that's done.
For sure.
You get the syndication money from that. The movie, The Bronze, is out right now. You'll do very well. And then we'll see you on Saturday Night Live. at some point.
All right, I'd love it.
Thanks to Melissa Rausch. Melissa Rausch on Twitter. The Melissa Rausch on Instagram. I'm guessing somebody had Melissa Rausch on regular Instagram. You're a celebrity. You can get verified. Get that other name.
Can I?
Yes,
Can I
you
do
can.
that?
Flex a little muscle.
All right, I'm making
Throw some Bernadette at them. Get it.
I'll throw down and make that happen.
And go see The Bronze. It's out in theaters everywhere. Trust me, it's worth the time. Your time and your money. You'll laugh so hard because it's not anything that you're expecting. And next time you're in New York, if you're doing Saturday Night Live, I'd love to talk to you again.
I would love that. Thank you so much. Thanks
Take
for the
care.
great interview.